Yesterday, a student walked up to me and said, "Hey, I didn't take any notes yesterday because I didn't know what to write down." Was that your problem? Were you sitting here yesterday like, should I write this down? I don't know. Could you tell me, based on yesterday, the three major Native American civilizations that existed? I'm not telling you to do it. I asked if you could do it. Could you tell me what major advances the Europeans had the Native Americans did not have? Could you tell me how the Native Americans got here? Could you tell me some of the barbaric practices that the natives engaged in that the Europeans felt they needed to thwart? Could you tell me why the Native Americans engaged in human sacrifice? Why did they do that? What was the reason? What was the logic? Could you do all that? Could you tell me what was the trigger event that led to the European desire to reach the Far East, India, China? What was the trigger event? Could you do that based on yesterday? If all of these things are yep, awesome. You have a really good memory or you took good notes. That's what you should be writing down. But this is a college course. I am not going to be saying, no, write that down with a Roman numeral. Nope, that's capital letter, Roman numeral. I'm not doing that. The assumption is you know how to take notes. You know how to take notes. If you don't, maybe American history is a better option for you. But I want you to give it a shot. Don't run to the counselors yet. Just wait. See how you do, okay? Let's see, what else should you have known? Yeah, the development of permanent agriculture. What did that allow the three great civilizations to do? Build things, create specialization. Not everyone had to farm. Did you know that? Could you have told me that based on yesterday? Let's see, trigger event. What were the three options basically for getting to the Far East? Do you know that? What were the three options? Basically across land, around Africa, or at it's sort of a trick question because the third option really wasn't the third option. It really didn't get you there. I mean, I suppose eventually it did, but they thought it was the third option. Well, it was either across land, around Africa, or heading west. So let's continue. Which country dominated this route? If you were the one who established it, what you did was you built up your navy to prevent anyone else from doing it. Does anyone know which country basically said, we got this one, no one else? You happen to know. It is Portugal. Know it. Know that Portugal took the lead in developing the path around Africa to Asia. So if you're a European country and you want to be a player, you can't go that way unless you defeat the Portuguese navy. You can't. So you got to develop your own way. And that's why Spain was so enticed when a fella came along and said, I can get you to China going that way. And again, they didn't believe the world was flat back then. They knew it was round. They just weren't sure about how large it was. The progression. When somebody sailed that way and he engaged in land, at first he thought it was India. But then subsequent voyages made him realize, gee, this isn't India, it's not China, it's something else. And it's in my way. Let's find a way around it so we can get to China. So the initial exploration was, God dang it, what is this? It's in the way. But then future voyages started saying, wait a minute, what is this thing? We should explore it. So the second wave of European vessels were mappers and people that figured out, gee, this is something. And then the third wave, let's take it. It's in my way. Gee, what is this? It's mine. Anyone know the name of those people? Conquistadores. The word is pronounced by tightening of the stomach muscles. So that's going to be a challenge for me, no problem. You tighten the stomach muscles as you say in increasing pitch, conquistadores. You say it like you're angry. Who are those people? They are the conquistadores. I am angry. Germans, why are they so angry? It's fine. What's your problem? Just chill, man. Okay. 2 explorers that you're going to meet. Who's the fella that finally reached the southern tip of South Africa? Remember, back then, there'd be dragons out here. It's very scary. So, the first Portuguese guy would say, all right, we're trying to get to, God, this piece of land is, say, we got something here, damn it! Would go back. The second Portuguese ship would go to where a fort was established and then trying to find a way around Africa. God dang, how large is this thing? All right, it's very scary. Let's go back. The third would go to the first fort, go to the second fort, and then right? The guy who reached the southern tip of Africa was a guy by the name of Diaz. He did it in 1488. Now, very rarely, in fact, almost never, will I ask you for dates. You will not find a test question that says, what year was it? Ah! No. Well, then why do I have the year up there? Anyone want to take a shot? Why is the year up there? If I don't expect you to memorize the year, then why is it up there? But why? The main reason is because 1488 is before 1492. You understand? Why?
I did that before they reached there.
Very good. It's so that Diaz was before Columbus.
Are we gonna have to memorize Diaz's name?
Memorize. Yeah. And then finally, a fellow by the name of Vasco da Gama. He's the guy that reached India. 1498. What does that tell you?
That's after Christopher Columbus.
After Christopher Columbus. Very good. Remember, when Columbus sailed, he was still trying to find India and China. So when he sailed this way and he came back with tales of this funny group, the Portuguese are like, yeah, big deal. Who cares? It wasn't until later when Columbus was like, something's going on here. There's something out there. When the Portuguese were like, wait a minute, maybe we should get in on that little game. But the game was to still get to India and China when Columbus made his initial voyage. You now know 3 sailors. Brooke, who did Diaz sail for? What country? No. Let's see. Rachie, who did Diaz sail for? Portugal, that's right. Who did Da Gama sail for? Ian, who did Da Gama sail? Portugal. How do you know?
Because they took the Portugal route?
That's it. If it's around Africa, it's Portugal. There's your clue. Ooh, I see a prompt question where I have maps and I'm showing routes and I ask you who made that voyage? What country sponsored that voyage? Think of these sailboats as the old version of spaceships, right? Who sponsored that launch to the moon? Well, the U.S. did, or the Soviets did, or China did, or even India's starting to get in on that, right? These are government-sponsored expeditions. But as you may or not be aware, any of you into like space exploration, who started the driving engine now in American space exploration? Is it the U.S. government?
No.
It isn't. It's now private entities. SpaceX is an example, or that Bronson guy. There are competing companies who are competing for contracts with the U.S. government to be the entity that gets us to the moon again. Did you know that the stated goal of the U.S. is to get back to the moon? You might ask, well, why? Because of Tang and Velcro. Anyway, same thing here. It's governments that are getting us to India and China. If it's around Africa, it's Portugal. Questions? Let's keep going. You are now looking at one of the major bad impacts of the Portuguese effort to get to India and China, right? They're traveling around Africa and they land here and then they land here. Don't worry about the red quite yet, but But as they're traveling around Africa, they encounter Africans. Africans are people who live in Africa. And they're different. These people are different than us. Superficially, go ahead, be racist here. What's the major difference? Their skin color. But what the Portuguese did was equate the difference in skin color to a difference in role. Your skin color is now going to take on social significance. To those people that I'm sure we've all met them, I'm not racist. Blacks are just like whites. No, they're different. Blacks are different than whites. And then that person, let's call her Aunt Petunia, will say, I know, but it's just skin color. No, it is more than skin color. It is socially significant. It is socially significant. People invented the differences. The skin color, that's biological. But what people did was say, skin color means different role. Anyone know what I'm talking about yet? That the Portuguese would look at these people and say, say, they have different skin color. Let's make them slaves. You are looking at the invention of race-based slavery. Not the invention of slavery. Slavery had been in existence for thousands of years before. Africans enslaved other Africans. In fact, it was Africans who would conquer their neighboring tribe and then sell those prisoners to the Portuguese. Right? But you're looking at the first time when your skin color dictated your economic role. You are looking at the extent, the best day in Portugal's history, the day when Portugal sort of was at the top of its game. Portuguese Empire is everything in blue for naval and red for its land acquisitions. You'll notice that it basically surrounds Africa. Does that make sense? It should. It should make sense that the Portuguese Empire is basically what's surrounding Africa. You notice that they hit part of South America there? Anyone know why? Well, you're right. They went off track. A boat, well, kind of. Any of you watch races, car races? Really exciting.
Left turn.
Yeah. Okay, but drawing. Okay, if here's Africa, not a bad drawing, and you're a boat going there. There's your boat. Now, which is faster, hugging the coast, or yeah, that's right. Going further away from Africa actually saves you time. That's what this guy did. He took a wide turn around Africa, and then he landed, and he's like, "What is this?" And then he did what Europeans did when they discovered new land. He stuck the flagpole in. Look, this must be new land. Get the flag! Ah! Oh! Oh! Right? And as he was sticking the flag in, the natives who lived there were like, no! Boom! Too late. Right? And the natives were like, damn it! There's nothing we can do. There's a flag there. I guess we're Portuguese now. Parts of what I just said might not be accurate. Okay. But basically, this is what happened. The Portuguese landed there and realized, gee, this isn't Africa. This is something else. They claimed it. Fun little fact. What is the official language of almost all of Central and South America?
Portuguese.
No. Spanish. What is the official language of Brazil? Portuguese. And now you know why. Now you know why. Gee, that's a test question. What's the official language of Brazil? Why is it the official language of Brazil? Now you know. Okay. You are now looking at the right-hand side of what becomes the African slave trade. What I'm telling you is one of the major outcomes of the Portuguese effort to get around Africa, followed by the Portuguese effort to explore Africa, followed by the Portuguese effort to conquer parts of Africa. Remember, it's in my way. What is this? Let's take it. The progression leads to the Portuguese conclusion that they could take Africans and export them to their part of the New World. Now, does anyone know why? What do they need the slaves for eventually?
Building and work that they don't
Work.
want.
Work. It's an economic-based decision. This is an economic-based decision. Okay? This is something we will explore more and more, but it's just kind of fascinating. You are Americans, and you are aware that we had this thing called slavery, and it ended after the Civil War. You're aware of that stuff, right? But what I want you to realize is we were a drop in the bucket. Almost all Africans who were taken from Africa and sent via ship to the Americas either went to the Caribbean, which, by the way, is in rough shape right now. I don't know if any of you are aware, but there was a nasty little hurricane, and it has just devastated parts of the Caribbean today. It's wiped out. It's very, very poor. Almost all of them went to the Caribbean or to Brazil. Some went here a bit. Read this interesting caption. Between 1650 and 1860, 15 million were transported. 15 million people were transported from the African coast to various parts of the New World. Of the 15 million, 500,000 made it to what we would today call the 13 colonies. 500,000. 500,000 out of the 15 million. I don't know what percentage that is. Does anyone know what percentage that is? It's 15 out of, it's 500,000 out of 15 million. Yeah, I think that's right. 1/30th. 1/30th, which is a fraction, not a percent, but about 3%, right? About 3% of the people transported from Africa to the Americas made it to what would eventually become the US. And is it sad for those 3%? Yep. But what I'm trying to give you a perspective of is that we were part of a bigger phenomenon. There was a bigger event going on. And I will remind you that one of the three big questions, could any of you right now say, here are the three big questions of this class? She can't. She is shaking her head. No, I cannot. Could any of you? Could any of you name one of them? The three big questions in this class, questions we will be dealing with all year. Yep.
Why?
I understand when you said that. Yeah.
How does America fit into the world?
There's one of them. How do we fit in? What is America's place in world history? Slavery, right? I'm guaranteeing you that you will have this very map on the test. There are 3 objective tests and 1 essay. There's a test on which addresses America's place in the world. This is going to be on that test, right? How we fit in. The other 2 questions are we the land of that frees or the land of oppresses? Are we the country that oppressed women, or are we the country that gave women the right to vote? And of course we're both, but which do you think there's more evidence of? And then, should liberal or conservative approaches be used to solve problems? Liberal means more government, conservative means less government. Okay. Those are the 3 big questions. I am telling you that this fits in with the 3rd question. How do we fit in? What's our place in the world? Here, we are the recipient. Eventually, we'd be the world's cop. And some would argue today, we seem to be abdicating that role. What I'll call Trumpism is the reduction of America, of America's footprint in the world. And whether that's good or bad is up to you to decide. Know that the Middle Passage was the journey across the ocean. The Middle Passage, the journey across the ocean. If you pack your boat full of Africans who will become slaves, and by the end of the journey, half lived, high five, man. High five. Good work. You had a 50% survival rate? Wow, nice. What'd they do with the bodies?
Overboard.
Throw them on the, just throw them overboard. Okay. And what's interesting is that you are treating a group of people like cattle, like tuna, right? Like you're just packing them in, like how many Twinkies can you fit in the box? But those people were people. And there are historical instances. This is nothing you have to write down. It's just kind of interesting. There are historical instances of future slaves as their friend is being thrown off the boat, resisting and almost overthrowing and saying, we need a funeral. We need a funeral for these people. We have tribal beliefs, and some instances of the captain allowing it to happen. Funeral is a practice of these things called people with this thing called culture. When you're slaves, you have no people or culture. Slavery, the great sin of slavery, this is a big idea that we're going to revisit later. The great sin of slavery is it was an attempt to eliminate the humanness of a group of people. Slaves, they don't have religion. They don't have culture. You don't have a history. You have no history. You have no family roots. You don't trace your lineage. You don't poop in a bag and then see what DNA you have. Is that what they do? No, that's to find out if you have colon cancer, right?
It's a swab in the mouth.
Swab, okay, fine. Which, by the way, have any of you done that or had relatives do that? Don't bother. Don't bother. They've done these studies where they send one swab to this company and another swab to this company, and this company says you're a descendant of George Washington, and this one says, Abraham Lincoln. Same DNA. It's a bunch of hooey. Don't waste your money. Okay. And now let's talk about Spain becoming a playa. Spain is on the outside looking in. As we've talked here, this is all Portugal. And Spain wants in. It's fine. But we can't go this way. And we can't go that way. The Italians dominated the land route. So Spain says, let's go our own way. You are looking at a series of progressions which shows the formation of a thing called Spain. Before this time, you weren't loyal to your nation. You were loyal to that person, this guy. I'm loyal to him. And if he had his daughter marry his son, okay, now I'm loyal to them, the house of them. And then they die and they will it to him. And so, all right, I'm loyal to you. I'm loyal to a person or a house. Any of you watch Game of Thrones? Same idea. This is the development of a new idea. You're not loyal to a house. You're loyal to a chunk of land. And when I die, you will follow my successor, not who my daughter married or whatever. You're going to stay loyal to this area, Spain. This is the invention of nation. Right? I don't think you've ever thought about this, but I hope you understand that nation is an invention. God did not on the eighth day say, there shall be nations. No, he just built mountains, right? And water and rivers. It took people to say, California. That's an invention. It's invented. You were looking at the invention of this thing called nation. And it was created when she married him. When she married him, her kingdom joined his kingdom, created this thing called Spain. She was the ruler of something else, and he was the ruler of something else. She was, if you want to know, she was the ruler of all this stuff, and he was the ruler of one of them. I think he was the ruler of Seville. She was the ruler of all the rest. She wore the pants, if you didn't realize that. Right? She was kind of a crazo. She was supposed to marry some old guy, and she prayed to the Lord, please may he die, and he did. He did, like the day of the wedding, he died. Right? Can you imagine that she thinks God listens to her? This matters. She thinks God matters, that God listens to her. Under her rule, all Muslims were kicked out of Spain. Under her rule, all Jews were kicked out of Spain. All Muslims were kicked out of Spain. All Jews were kicked out of Spain. That's 2. She loved the number 3. She loved the number 3. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, 3. She kicked out all Muslims. She kicked out all Jews. Give me one more sign, God. Give me one more sign. And through the door walks Christopher Columbus. Hey, Queenie, I can get you to China and India by going west. And she said, you know, what you say makes absolutely no sense, but I believe you because God would not lie to me. God would not lie to me. And how many ships did she give me?
3.
I will not test you on that. Who gives a rip? She awarded him 3 ships and says, yep, go find a way to China and India. Now, the last note up there is that something that you probably heard, and that is Pope. Pope is in command. Pope rules Europe, right? So Spain's in Europe, so Spain is loyal to this person named Pope. But this represents the beginning and the beginning of the end of that. The idea that Pope is my ruler, right? Spain's in Europe, right? That means Pope is the boss of Spain, right? Is Portugal in Europe? They sure are, which means Portugal is loyal to Pope, which means Spain and Portugal are on the same team, right?
No.
Team Pope. But that's not going to last, right? They're going to start being competitors with each other when they realize there's a whole lot of land out there to discover, right? Okay, any questions here? We're flying today. May I advance? I'm going to take that as a yeah. So let's meet Christopher Columbus. Who is this guy? Why did he do what he do? Why did he do what he do?
One gets some.
Well, that's true. Christopher Columbus was very driven by profit. You can make a lot of money out there if you discover things. When you discover things, you get part of it, right? So he's motivated by profit. He wants to make Spain a playa. He wants to break the exclusivity. He wants to make Spain part of the trade network that exists. Right? Spain's on the outside looking in. He wants to break that. He wants to get there faster than Portugal. And he thinks sailing west will do that. If the trade between Spain and the Far East can be made efficient, it'll make prices cheaper. This is an economic argument. Has anyone ever heard of this thing called the Renaissance? Renaissance?
Yeah.
Okay, throw out some ideas. How do I know I'm looking at Renaissance? What am I looking at? Yeah, okay, fine. That's
Art, expression.
art. Very good. Right? The David, Leonardo da Vinci. But it's more than that. The Renaissance is a scientific blooming as well. It is not an accident that Columbus crossed the ocean when he crossed the ocean. Why didn't they do it 5 years, 100 years before then? Because they did not have the technology. And it was the Renaissance that invented things that made travel across oceans possible. Have any of you ever heard of this thing called the astrolabe? Astrolabe? No? No one's ever heard of the astrolabe? The astrolabe is a device about this big. It allows you to navigate your way at night with the stars. You understand what you can do now? You can travel across the ocean. You no longer need to say, stay close to the coast. There's the tree. Woo! Oh. Now you could be in the middle of nowhere. What's over there? Water. And over there, water. And how about over there? Water. And that way, water. Well, where the hell do we go? Go to where the stars are. Travel with the stars. That means you can travel large distances without needing to see the tree or the rock. You can just travel with the stars. The astrolabe. And the printing press, the invention of the printing press, which allowed Columbus to be, what was very rare in that time, educated. He could read. before the printing press, the only people who could read were monks. And you know what they read? The Bible. Why would you need to read anything else? But with the invention of the printing press, books are now readily available. He reads books. He becomes educated. He's an educated man. Educated men are necessary to create this guy. Now, you might think, that's not Columbus. That's some old grandma. Nope, that's Columbus. That is Christopher Columbus. Last note for this slide, and that is Columbus started this trend of Europeans crossing the Atlantic. Some of them moved to the Americas, where they set up little kingdoms with them, and then they had kids. Those kids considered themselves Europeans, which is kind of interesting. When the Japanese would eventually move to the west coast of the United States, the Japanese that moved to the west coast of the United States in the 1880s, they considered themselves Japanese, but their kids considered themselves Americans. We're Americans. That is not true here. They brought their culture with them, as opposed to the Japanese, the kids of the original Japanese immigrants. When they moved here, they said, enough of Japanese culture. I want to learn rock and roll. It's just kind of an interesting contrast. That's all I'm saying. That's enough note-taking. Put it away. Let's shift gears. Take a 1-minute break. Stand, stretch. I'm handing out this packet. You will be given one of the documents, and you will be given a responsibility for tomorrow. Easier than you think, so don't worry. De nada. You're welcome. You're welcome. And you're welcome. And you're very welcome. You're extraordinarily welcome. You're really, really welcome. You're more welcome than anyone ever. Welcome. Welcome. No problemo. Here you go. Sorry. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. There we go. There we go. And there. Okay. Complete. So you'll notice on this packet that I just handed out to you that the first category is something called Columbus. And then there appear to be three quotes from something named Zinn, followed by it should say Schweikert with a T, Schweikert. 3 quotes from Schweikert and Allen. And then there's a second category called European Justification for Colonization, followed by 2 quotes from Zinn and 2 quotes from Schweikert and Allen, followed by a third category called European Relationship to Native Americans, with 3 quotes from Zinn, 1 quote from Schweikert and Allen, followed by a category called Native versus European Culture, with 2 quotes from Zinn, 4 quotes from Zinn, and 3 quotes from Schweikert and Allen. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Did I count that right? Number all the documents, please. Start at 1, and how far do you get? Okay, they're all numbered. Number them 1 to 21. Now remember the number I give you. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's your document. I want you, now what I could have done is had all of you read all 21, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to depend on each other a bit. Read your document and be able to tell me what your document is saying. Paraphrase it. Put it in your own words. Okay? For tomorrow. Honestly, it should take you 5 minutes.
Can I get one of those? I was at a doctor's appointment, and I just got put in this class.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah.
Back to your notebooks. We're going to do a little exercise. Back to your notebook. You're not doing this now. Oh, no. Time is way too precious. Let's do this now. Okay? Yep, if you have a conflict, see you later. Oh,
Oh, here's your.
someone else sit here.
He was open when I came in.
So you have a nice clean white sheet of paper. I am going to engage in a little exercise. Those of you who are leaving, make sure you watch this later. I'm going to engage in a little exercise. I'm comparing two really good Italian restaurants. One's named Peppers and the other one is named Amante. Okay, they're both Italian restaurants. Look at the ingredients for the pizza that Peppers makes. They have sausage, and they have pepperoni, and they have mushroom, and they have onion. And now look at the ingredients for this place called Amante. They have sausage, pepperoni, mushroom, and onion. Okay, you see? Do you see? You could make a conclusion about this, couldn't you? This is one of those Captain Obvious ones. There's a conclusion that you can reach about the ingredients used by these two restaurants. Okay, that there is a comparison here. Comparison is things that are similar, contrast is things that are different. Okay? And now I'm showing you what a food critic concluded about the atmosphere of both. Let's look at Peppers. It's quiet. There's gentle violin music playing in the background. The decor is rather tame. It's kind of dark, dim candles sort of thing. Sort of romantic, I guess. And it's in Woodbury. Any of you ever been to Woodbury? Okay. Woodbury is what we call a suburb. It's a suburb. And by the way, it's a pure suburb. And if you don't know what I mean, get into sociology. Amante is loud. It's happening. It's exciting. Right? It's kind of loud visually and audibly. They got rock and roll music playing in the background. Bow, wow, bow, wow. And it's right next to where the Twins play. It's in downtown Minneapolis. You can make a conclusion about the atmosphere of these two restaurants, can you not? Okay. Here's your challenge. I want you to pretend you're going to write an essay about these two restaurants where you are going to compare and contrast these two restaurants, and your only job in the next 2-3 minutes is to write a potential thesis statement. It's 1 sentence long, right? Visually, you're going to have the rest of the essay, but you're not going to do that. You're just going to write your thesis. There's the prompt. What's your thesis sentence? And right now, if you're thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing, that's okay. Perfectly fine. Let's see what you got. Go. You have 30 seconds. You have 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time. All right, you took a shot. Maybe you wrote it well, maybe not. Let's just, what I have up here are 3 thesis statements taken from last year's class. Let me show them to you. And then you decide which one is sort of like yours. Maybe you have a totally original one. That's awesome. All right. So here's one. This paper will compare and contrast 2 pizza places. That was a thesis statement. So now you're looking at that. No need to show hands here, but how many of you have something kind of like that? That's sort of what yours looks like, right? Maybe, maybe not. What do you think? If I were the teacher and I read that thesis statement, would I be saying, another home run? Nice job, Billy. Okay? Or am I looking at that like, ooh, geez. Okay? Well, I'm gonna point out some problems with this one. It doesn't tell me anything, right? There's no judgment. Your thesis statement must have something called judgment. In other words, does your thesis statement tell me which one's better? It better. Your thesis statement has to pick a winner. I need a winner. It also does not get into the specifics. What is being compared? What is being contrasted? Does your thesis statement mention ingredients? The word ingredients? Does it mention the word location or atmosphere? All right, how about this one? Peppers in Amante, specific, right? This one had no mention of any restaurant. This one is mentioning peppers in Amante have similar ingredients, but their atmosphere sets them apart. Now, how many of you have a thesis that's sort of like that one? All right. What do you think? Home run? Double? Single? What is it missing? Judgment. There's no judgment. I don't know which one you think is better. But it's not bad. It's okay. I'd call it good. These points out where they compare. It points out where they contrast, but it does not judge one as superior to the other. It's missing that. So please notice that a thesis statement needs to be specific. It needs to identify what is being addressed specifically. And it needs a winner. How about this one? Peppers and Amante both offer a greater variety of ingredients than other Twin Cities restaurants. But the funky, lively atmosphere at Amante makes it a better place to give visiting friends and family a taste of local culture. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. How about that one? It's specific, pepper, Amante. It lists what's being compared, ingredients. It lists what's being contrasted, atmosphere. And it picks a winner. I know who this person likes better. Hooray. Nicely done. I am telling you that in this class, your thesis needs to have the ingredients, that's sort of ironic, in order to make it a good statement. Great thesis, okay? Here it is again. What does it have? It has what is being compared. It has something called synthesis. We'll talk about that more later. Don't worry about that. It has what is being contrasted, and it has a winner. My last thing I'm going to tell you, and then off you go, is this. In your first, this is key. In your first Blue Book essay, you are going to be comparing something named Zinn to something named Schweikert and Allen. That's Pepper and Amante. Zinn, Schweikert and Allen. Pepper, Amante. Where did you compare Pepper and Amante? You compared them about ingredients and atmosphere. What are you going to do with Zinn versus Schweikert and Allen? You're going to compare what they thought of Columbus. European justification for colonization. European relationship to the natives. And native origin. Ah! it's the same. It's just a little bit more stuff. Okay, we'll revisit this starting tomorrow. See you later. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Send me over the
This will all be on the website if you want to watch this again.